everybody, happy Monday and welcome to yet another episode of our HR Breakfast USA. Nearly forgot who I was, where I am, and why. And before we start, let's introduce my lovely co-hosts. So, Callie.
Hello, happy Monday. Callie from Wanadu. Excited to be here.
Toby.
Hello, I'm Toby from Freeformers. I am not as excited, Callie, but still excited, just a slightly lower level of excitement.
Is it impossible to be as excited about anything as I am about being here?
No, I've given up. We're episode 17 now. I've given up trying to be as excited as you about being.
And in the middle...
Oh, hey, it's me, Sam Eaton, proud founder of Mindability. So, why...
I pointed the wrong way.
Like I see.
It looks great on my end, but maybe I just missed the first one.
Honestly, it comes from 17 weeks of doing this. So why are we here today, and what do we want to talk about today? Well, today we want to talk about team building and why doesn't it stick? And I liken this to the 11 billion Zoom calls we have every day, right? I mean, I can get that many in. With all the will in the world, you try and remember all the conversations, but you can't. Team building is no different. You come in, you have a fabulous day, you're taken out of your reality and put in another reality for the day. You're taken away from everything that's real and that you do to do some team building. And then it's like, love you, bye, and off you go. There's nothing in place that helps it stick. Costs a lot of money, right? Today, I'm going to start with Toby on this because I know you've probably got quite a bit to say.
Well, prepare yourself for a 10-minute Toby monologue and then we can throw over to Callie. No,
I mean, I'm sitting comfortably right now. Please, everyone listening, sit comfortably. Here comes Toby.
I talked about this the first time I kind of identified that this was a bit of a problem for in my world of work was when I was working for an organization internally and they had just merged and they were going to go through this merger. They're going to bring these two people, two very different sets of people together. And we're like, okay, what do we do to bring these two sets of people together? And it's like, oh, we'll do some sort of roadshow eventy type stuff. There was like 3,000 of them on either side. And you're just like, okay, what change are you trying to affect there? It's like, oh, we're trying to build the culture, bring the people together, all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, so you think that's gonna happen in a day? Like, first and foremost, like everyone in a room for a day, everyone's gonna change. Maybe. Okay, what are you delivering? Oh, we're delivering like a training course. Great. So you think that's also going to change? And you're like, probably not. But the organization I was working with at the time, and particularly the stakeholders, apart from my boss at the time, went with the very, very, very vanilla option. Who've just been bought by EY, so you can tell why. You tell they're vanilla because EY bought them, right? Hot take. Put that on LinkedIn and smoke. Just a really vanilla option, because it was like theory, lots of theory, really great stuff. And don't get me wrong, like the theory stuff is really great, but what brings people together is a shared experience. Mm-hmm. And in most instances, a training experience is not a shared experience. It's barely an experience. So to call it a shared experience is like what brings people together is sharing either great or terrible times together. That creates bonds. Now, when you think of it like that, then your event either has to be amazing or really challengingly bad to bring those people together. And some of the best team building experience I've been on have been the ones that have been absolutely awful because it becomes like a really like, oh my word, we'll never do that. We'll never stay in that hotel again. We'll never do that again. Oh, were you there? Can you remember when you saw that thing hanging off the TV in the hotel room? Oh, never stay in there again. Honestly, like I got pictures. It was gross. We all moved out. But the other challenge then when you do that is like you're still putting it back to it being a single day. It's like this has to happen over time. And what most people do is when you put that is like the shared experience then becomes like not work related. So it's like, oh, we all got unified because we did this great thing together, and we get back to work and it's like, well, we're all going to default to what we were doing before. So you haven't affected the system in which people are operating in. You've maybe created some closer bonds, but something that is so far removed from the workplace. And this is why particularly startups, right, when they start, they have a really close knit team, because not because they were a small company, because like no one was earning any money, and they were like, oh my god, we're all going through this particularly stressful time, and now we need to stick together and bond together to get through it. You then get to the other point when you go from startup to scale up and you start adding more people in, and everyone back referencing, oh, you remember when we were in that room and above that coffee shop, blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, so all of a sudden you then need to reframe the shared experience to like reset it for a wider group of people. If you don't, you kind of have that shared experience stuck in the past. So shared experience is the thing I think I'd start the conversation at, like, what is that a great shared experience to deliver, other than let's build a tower with spaghetti and marshmallows. Give me a break. Do not charge me $1,000 a day for spaghetti and marshmallows ever again.
And here ends the sermon of Toby Kang. Callie, over to you. I'm sorry, Toby. Did you need to swig there? Callie.
I, being 100% transparent with this, most of my team building has come through the startup stuff that Toby's talking about like, oh my gosh, we get through this insane thing. Like, remember the time they tore down the garage next to us and we had mice for a month? Like, that's a real story, by the way. It's all of that kind of random stuff for the most part. My only real experience with a like curated team building event had the exact opposite impact, because what it seemed to do was solidify that some of us were working really, really hard for the common good, and other people were completely aloof in their own little planet. And honestly, I think I needed a therapy session after it. But because that's what it was about, how do we build this emotional connection with people without connecting it to the work? So to Toby's point, we're not doing a great job at saying, hey, this is why it's important for us to work as a team together, and how we're going to help break down those actual barriers to getting work done together. It becomes either way too much emotional, let's do trust falls, or we're focusing too much on the training side and we're not working on the team side. And then therefore, maybe we came out of it learning something about work, but we didn't build those relationships of resilience with our team.
Yeah. And I often find we often talk about creating a room full of psychological safety, but being able to do that and perhaps asking people to share something, I agree you can't do it if you've got 3,000 people, right? But if you've got, say, 9 or 10, those shared experiences, and I've had it where you can hear a pin drop because someone has shared something that the rest of the team don't know, and the tissues come out, and there is that real moment of you can sense it. It's almost, they're so connected that the sessions after that, people remember, because they remember the feeling that they've had before that. So Toby, to your point, how do you then create that with 3,000? Because we all remember, we remember the bad, but having that moment of connection, we bond the most when we exercise and eat. So to your point, Toby, the spaghetti and the marshmallows just don't work. I mean, so says someone equipment, I feel. So
it's just all, I go back to the company that EY bought, right? It's just all grounded in lots of theory, but like workplace theory as well, or leadership theory. It's like, what about just human behavioral theory? Why don't we just go with that? Like, how do humans form bonds and relationships and do that? And the thing I think I've harped about in almost every episode is that happens way more organically and way better, and enabled by technology now in the digital world outside of work. So why you'd ever, it's really, I use the word arrogant quite a lot when I talk about HR and learning and development inside industries, because there's a level of arrogance that they operate with. And I'm not trying to be provocative on purpose, but like arrogance is the right word, where you think, actually, as a HR or learning team, I have a way better understanding of the world of work than any other person in the world. And it's like, no, you don't, I'm afraid. And why? Because you're focusing on the world of work. Things, just take a look at your window on your device and see the things that are happening inside the world of work, and how people are forming and building relationships now as a result of technology. Just do that, and then realize how you are completely inept by thinking that you have all the answers. So I think it goes to that. I think it's a piece of what both of you have said, but then you add the technology into the mix, and then that completely changes it another level. In a world where I don't even think the in-person team building stuff first, then you add, you can do it through technology as well, It's like, oh, really? Oh, what do we build? We send packs of marshmallows and spaghetti to everybody's house and then get them to build the bridge online. It's like, that's not... It's like the route one example of like, how do you make this like a virtual thing? Oh, you just do it in front of a camera rather than... It's like, no, that's not how it works. That's very lazy. I don't know. I went around about the houses there. I just got quite angry. So I'll shut up now.
Well, actually, Cynthia's just asked a really good question. Do you think it's because we move too fast and expect too often when forming workplace relationships? Callie, let me go across to you.
I think that's a really good point. I think we're not focusing enough on what really builds the psychological safety, what builds the opportunity for people to feel comfortable saying there's a breakdown in what we're doing, it's not working, and have those conversations. And if we're not focused on creating connections all of the time, and the team building effort is just the insurance that you have that time to kind of break down those barriers, then you're going about it wrong. But I think maybe I'm putting words into your mouth, Toby, but I think that's part of what we get wrong with it, is we say, oh, the team building is going to be the time when we like forge these new relationships, or that's when we come together, when really we have to be doing that all along, so that the team building can then just solidify what we're doing on a daily basis.
And the team building is a strategy, right? You don't change a habit. You don't correct something in a day. It's like, you can't fix something that's broken in a day. So, it's fascinated me for a long time. When you're in the moment, you have fun. I'm an expert, so, I'll kind of get out there and have a great fun, but I've had a fun day. It's not team building. Mm-hmm. It's strategy that happens over time. What is the end result we're looking by building this team? What do we need as a whole, and how does everyone fit into that? What is their perceived value, and how do we help them appreciate that as we build? And what are the tough bits we're going to find? Because I think by having those conversations, you are team building, right? Why does it have to be a day? Who said that?
Well, and I always go back to my time as a chef, right? I think I might have talked about it with you both before, maybe. No, it wasn't with either of you. Doesn't matter. The best team I've ever worked in, the best team, like the closest team, particular I've ever worked in, has been when I was a chef, hands down. Like it just was. Now I try every time I take myself back there and go, well, why was it so good? Why was I so happy? Why was I fulfilled? Why were I so close to the people with me? And why were we then really effective? And it's like you almost became like one being, almost in the way that you operated. Now, I'm not saying let's do this in the world of work, but we worked in close confines for long periods of time. And when you're on service, in a very intense environment, when you're just doing prep, it's fine. You're put some music on, have a laugh. You go through some quite relaxed, informal parts where it's like chop, 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 cook, 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 blah, blah, blah. And then it's like service starts, 12 o'clock, lunchtime, bam, you get hit with tickets. It's like, okay, now we've got to battle through these tickets and get through this next 2.5 hours. And then there's the relief. It's like, oh, we're out of this situation. Oh, well, that ticket, this. Oh, good job. Well done. High five. Blah, 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 blah. And then you all go out and drinking till 3 o'clock in the morning afterwards. So like the whole experience of that creates a really close team. And what do? You repeat. You get drunk, you wake up with a hangover, you do your lunch service, you get drunk, you just rinse and recycle. So it's kind of baked in to the vibe of being a chef that you're kind of primed to have a really, really close team. Now, if you look at that kind of cycle in the world of work, how often do you go through that? Enjoyable, quieter bits of work in low pressure, highly intense bits of work that bring those people together, the opportunity to review and reflect, and then the social stuff. I think I've just designed a framework by just talking about it out loud, but that's trademark. EY can buy that. It's a lot more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, you're no longer interesting once they've bought it, so you might as well.
But I'll be a multimillionaire, so that's also fine.
Happy days, Barbados, here we come. You're so right. It's the stress of it all that brings people together.
Make me write a company song. Like, I am a musician. I love music. That stuff is not fun. No one enjoys that.
It's the same vibe as trying to get everyone to do a TikTok, right? So a TikTok dance craze. Like, to get a group of people to do a TikTok dance craze is like quite, for some people, they'll absolutely love it. It's everything about. To try and get people who don't want to do that is like trying to push spaghetti and marshmallows up a hill, right? It's almost impossible. So it's like, you've got to appreciate that what means excitement and fun for you is not what it is for others. And therefore, you're writing a company song, you're doing the complete opposite. You're creating two different tribes then. You're not bringing people together. You're creating two different groups of people that like stuff and then pushing them apart.
Yeah.
Sorry, Teresa. I know a company cheerleaders.
Okay, can everyone just talk about the horrible things they've experienced?
Yes.
Or seen other people do?
Company cheerleaders so far for the win for me. I have been in an organization where we were asked everyone had to sing Happy. You know, I can't remember who sang it. And that didn't go so well. That didn't go so well.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So now think about doing that now, like 10 years after that song came out.
Oh yeah, because someone 10 years ago figured out that's a good way to do it. Went, hey, I can sell this. I can sell a workshop. I'll sell a workshop that does this.
I'll sell a workshop. Yeah.
And they're making a TikTok video of them dancing as they walk down the street.
Oh yeah,
just like the music video.
Oh yeah, it was the worst thing going, and I think everyone was so stressed to sing a song about how we were all meant to be happy. The irony was not missed on me.
Yeah, there was. Do you remember the? I can't remember what the craze was called, but where the camera panned around, everyone like stood still, and like the camera panned around a room, and everyone was like frozen, and like you had to go around. That I worked for a company that did that once, and it's like, oh, let's all like stand still in funny poses and make a camera go through, and it's like. But then it feels like creating viral content for your company social media rather than team building at that stage. It's like, oh, wouldn't this be good if we put this on LinkedIn about they had to write and perform comedy. That is a very niche thing. Like, you either got to want to do it or not. Like, and there's my little one. I say want to do every call just to make sure that get Callie's plug in. Well, any others? Any others there? Like for you two, is there what's the worst ones you guys have been part of?
Honestly, I had one that I think it ended up becoming kind of a group therapy session. I think like 6 of us cried at some point, and like not in a good way. Yeah. Yep. And yeah, and it was also built around strength finders. And so by the end of it, it was like, if you understand strength finders, it's like, these are the things you're really good at, and these are the things that you're less good at, and you should be aware of that. It was like, oh, well, I'm not good at this. So now all of you can just do those parts of my job. And so it actually had like the opposite effect. But I think that's part of the problem, where you take a group that is a dysfunctional team, you put them in a pressure cooker, and you expect that to be a positive experience. And so you have to understand the dynamics that are already at work within that group, and whether or not you're giving a situation to support the development of relationships in that group, or you're actually just causing additional problems or solidifying the problems that bringing out into the open, the problems that were quietly being talked about in different places. So I think that was my example of, wow, team building is a lot more of an art form than most people give it credit for. Because if you looked at the day on the surface, it probably was a great experience for a team that already had a lot of psychological safety and close-knit relationships. But when there were so many toxic factors happening with it, it was probably the worst structure for a really nice day.
Wow.
No words. But the thing is, what you're trying to do is like force a collective shared experience on people. But what you're trying to do is do it outside of work, which actually work is the only thing that really bonds all of you as a group of people. If all of you were exactly the same and enjoyed the same stuff, then it'd be a bit there's been some companies like that. Recruitment companies tend to be that kind of company, right? With it. But anyway, I'm just having a go at everybody today, apparently. EY, recruitment companies. Anybody else? Come on,
Toby.
I like Christy's example. We're gonna give you a bus and we're gonna say, get on the bus or leave.
I worked for a company. I'm not going to even say the industry, but I worked for a company, and when I joined, everyone was talking about being on the bus or not, because the outgoing leader of that team did that had a team meeting, and they're like, okay, this is the decision. You've got to decide whether you're on the bus or not. And so it was like a catchphrase in the team. It brought people together, but in completely the wrong way. And I was like, what's this on the bus thing that everyone keeps talking about? Oh, and it's like, and I see the guy on LinkedIn now, and you're just like, you cannot profess to be like a good quality leader when you were talking about shouting at people about being on the bus or not. The other thing I was going to say was that I worked in another company, that all the kind of times the company got together as a whole company was centered around drinking and a competitive activity. Now, if you know me, which you both do, great, I love that. But there's a large portion of the company that wasn't their vibe and not what they enjoyed. So it's like, what you can't do is design the experience for yourself. That's pretty bad. And like, so you need to find something that everybody has in common with each other. And guess what? I'm just nearly really sorry. Guess what?
You did, didn't you? I saw
did.
it. Oh.
Guess what? It's the fact that you all work together at the same place. That's the thing that bonds you. Stop trying to create a new thing, because you've already got the thing right there. And I'm not saying don't have socials, but don't expect that to be the thing that bonds you as a team. That's stupid. And
don't make them compulsory. There's some organizations out there who are doing this really well, which is, several months in advance, this is what we're looking to do. If you can come, great. But here's an interesting dynamic, and it started, a decade ago in Silicon Valley, where, a lot of these organizations did not have offices. So because they didn't have offices, they then invested in sending their people, once a month, once a quarter, to all come together for, several days, for team experiences, for motivation, for ironing out the problems. And obviously it then attracted a certain type of person who was able and wanted that kind of lifestyle, where they work from home and they could travel with the organizations. There was a lot of that in my mind, I think worked quite well, because it's, here's the itinerary over these few days. Here's the work stuff we need to do to come together on, the planning, what's worked well this quarter, what's not, what are we going to do about it? Let's really look into this. And then outside of that, some of the activities, and then the socials. So the latter two, with a few organizations I know, were not compulsory. Obviously the work bits were, which meant the introverts who had no interest in going out, Toby, to your point, and, doing a bit of axe throwing or kayaking in some extremely cold water, that they didn't feel that they should go, That was their time. But the money that should have gone into offices and other training, that's how they did it. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect, but there are elements of that I really like, which is the focus around work, and the other elements are there if you like it. So some people got a lot out of it, whilst others not so much, but they still enjoyed it.
If you boil down the employee experience to two things for me, one of them is treat people like they're significant. The second one is you got to bring people along with you. And I think that's part of the big thing that we miss with these team building activities is that we project something onto people and we say, this is what you need to be doing right now. But instead, if you involve people in the process and saying, here's our goal, here's how we're coming together, this is actually a great use of a survey. It's one of the few times, and one of the things that I get excited about doing with clients that want to do is, okay, we've got a great amount of data. We have an idea of what we need to accomplish. Let's have the employees help make the decision. Maybe both of them or the directions you're going are things that we think are going to be helpful, or you're breaking it down to what we're doing in the afternoon. Then bring in a survey and say, here are our options. Which one do you want, or which combination, so that you can start to involve them in what are you going to be interested in? Or maybe that's where you start and you develop it around what you're learning from your people. And to the point of what both Freeformers and Want to Do is doing, what can we include with our information we already know about these people and all of the data that we're gathering to make smarter decisions rather than just hoping something sticks.
Yeah. I like the combination of the two. Toby?
It's just like make your workplaces better, isn't it? That's all it is. It's like, and this is why, I fundamentally, I get told off because I use that word too much, but I fundamentally disagree with most learning, training, team building events or initiatives. DEI, change, transformation, any initiative where you're trying to get people to change and behave and think and feel differently tends to be, what can we do that doesn't involve the day-to-day? You're like, are you off your rocker? So I'm just trying to find different ways of not swearing. Are you absolutely crazy? Because what you're trying to affect is a change in the day-to-day. So why don't you try and change the day-to-day? It just seems beyond me that you kind of go, we want to change how people turn up and show up at work. Okay, cool. Let's send them to a water park. And you're like, what? Why? I haven't heard of anyone doing that, but it'd be a great idea. The HR Breakfast USA water park tour.
I mean, I think we should give it a go just to find out if this is a good idea or not. I'm feeling this should be tested, and maybe a couple of theme parks. Am I going off topic? I'm not sure. But that just demonstrates, doesn't it? That's an experience. That's about having fun. If you want to bring your people together to have fun, that's very different to the outcome you're looking for team building. And I think that's the fundamental question. What is the outcome you're looking to achieve from this?
I just have a flashback to a pitch I did a couple of years ago where they were like asking us to design a team building day. It's literally the brief. I don't know why I haven't talked about this, and we're nearly out of time. But like, I kept asking them, like, what do you want to get out of it? It was like, we just want to get people to, get together and play some games. So what kind of games do you design? It's like, well, I mean, I can do that, but like, to what end? Oh, just so people have fun. It's like, hang on a minute. So you want to spend like 10 grand on an event where people just have fun? Yeah. But bring people together against the strategy and the purpose. Like, oh, hang on a minute. Those two things. You want them to play games, and then you want them to be aligned on strategy and purpose. Those are two different like things. Like, yeah, but can't you create like a game around strategy and purpose? Like, why would I create a game around your strategy and purpose? I'm not just like, no one's going to buy into that game. Workplace games. We need to have an episode on that.
Well, there was a time with workplace games. Maybe you're right. Maybe do a game fest. So the big takeaway is, if you want to have a whole load of fun, do a team fun day, right? Call it a fun day. Call it what it is. But if you're talking about team building, what is the outcome you're looking to achieve? How are you empowering those within that team to be able to deliver what needs to be delivered? And how do you create that connectivity? That is very different to, hey, let's go and have a team building day. Both nods. So your final comment and thought on this. Callie, let me come to you first.
This is not a baby shower. Don't treat it like a baby shower. In fact, do baby showers differently too, because those are also terrible. But if like creating silly games to loosely connect people who have no reason to be in the same room together is the goal, team building needs to be about furthering the team's ability to collaborate in a work environment, if that's what we're working on.
Toby.
Just make your workplace better. God damn it.
You almost made it if we're counting damage.
Did it.
I don't know. I think there's different swearing rules across either side of the pond. I need to. Okay. Oh,
They're
gosh
different
darn it!
levels.
Gosh darn it!
Different levels of.
Oh, bloody hell! I've done it again.
Yes, different levels of potty mouths, I feel. So on that bombshell,
Toby also had an announcement, right?
Did I?
You were going to talk about something with a friend. No? Did I make that up?
What?
About Kirsty?
Oh, yes.
I was like...
Yes. The Evolving HR. So Kirsty, who's been in chat, if you're not connected with Kirsty, definitely connect with Kirsty.
Must connect with her.
She's created the search engine for HR people, which is just like phenomenal, like on a scale that I've never seen before. And she's doing some really cool stuff. So definitely follow Kirsty. Definitely get involved with Evolving HR. She's also creating the Evolving HR conference. So imagine there was a search engine for HR and then someone did a conference about it. That's what Kirsty's doing. Get involved because it's awesome stuff. Thank you for reminding
me. Yes, we talked about this.
I did put it in the show notes. I was like, I need to talk about this.
This
I did. Yeah.
Got there in the end.
We did.
Sam.
Perfect. So I think closing remarks is, for me, this, it's like, a dog is not for Christmas, it's for life. Your team building, whilst you've got your people there, is just the same. It starts from the second they walk through the door to the second they leave. It is what is you're trying to create with that team. How does that individual contribute? How do you want them to contribute? And how do they want to contribute? And how do you make the most out of it? Go have fun with a team day, but call it. It's team fun. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming along today, for really interacting with this session. Love the energy that we had going today. Just continue to send in your questions, your thoughts, what you want us to cover, and we will absolutely rip it apart and discuss it and have a chat together. So
tell you to do better.
Yeah. Continue to tell everyone to do better. But thank you. You keep turning up, which is wonderful. So anyway, have a fantastic week, everyone. Take good care.